welcome to The Grill, a new series from Saurav Inside. For most of my life, the current decided where I went. I worked hard, but I wasn't the one steering. The series is about learning to steer. I am Saurav Sharma, an immigrant, a father, and a digital specialist figuring out West London. I haven't figured it all out yet. I'm just a guy in his 40s trying to build. You're hearing my real voice right now, but for the main episode, I use an AI. I'd rather use the technology I have to seep honest thought today than wait for the perfect studio or the perfect moment. This is The Drill. Welcome to the construction site.
This is the last episode of the first season of The Drill. Not a polished finale. Not a success story with a bow on it. Just an honest tour of where the construction site stands. What has been built, what is still scaffolding, and what the whole thing is actually for. You have been inside the process from the beginning. You deserve the truth of where it ends up. Let me start with what exists. Saurav Insight Consultancy Limited is registered. I am the director of a company. That sentence still feels strange to say. Not because I doubt it, but because for so many years, the distance between who I was and who I wanted to be felt uncrossable. It is crossed now, quietly, without fanfare. This series, 7 episodes deep, published consistently, built at 3:30 in the morning while my family slept, written from the inside out. Not a performance, a process. The algorithm audit has moved from a personal experiment to a research methodology. 7 participants, a 7-day process. 5 completed the full protocol. 2 engaged at the start but didn't reach day 8. That gap is data 2. It tells you something honest about how hard it is to change a habit that the algorithm has spent years reinforcing. The workshop proposal is with a university and local libraries. The doors open slowly here, and sometimes not at all. I am learning that navigating UK institutions requires a different kind of patience than building the thing itself. The bureaucracy is not the obstacle. My own impatience with it is. The first product of clarity designed is in development. Tulsi, rosemary, Timur. 3 ingredients from my own story, not wellness marketing. A clarity tool. The Desiblitz interview was published. Millions of monthly readers. The immigrant time tax. The digital parrot cage. Concepts developed from lived experience. Now in a publication that South Asian communities across the UK read and trust. A graduation. A master's degree. Completed while building all of the above simultaneously. That is what has been built. Now the honest part. The algorithm audit is still in development. The research is promising. The methodology is tested. But the formal workshop, structured, repeatable, scalable, is not yet complete. I am pitching something that is still being refined as I pitch it. That is uncomfortable. It is also true. Navigating the business world with a non-typical service is genuinely hard. What I offer does not fit neatly into a procurement category, and sometimes the audit itself creates an unexpected friction. When you introduce the idea of auditing how attention is being spent within an organization, some people instinctively hear disruption rather than improvement. I'm learning how to frame it as the latter without losing the honesty of the former. The volunteer trap is real. Volunteering opened doors in Nepal and here in London. It always does. But it also sets a price in people's minds that is hard to reset. I am resetting it, making visible the full weight of the multidisciplinary experience and asking to be valued accordingly. That process is not finished. The company is registered. The products and services are forming. The revenue is not yet matching the vision. Slow. That is the honest state of the construction site. I'd like to share something about the full-time job I carry alongside all of this. I do not experience it as a compromise. I experience it as the foundation that makes everything else possible. It pays the rent. It funds the experiments. It keeps the building standing while the more ambitious parts are being constructed. Some people call this security. I call it the angel investor that lives in my calendar. Let me tell you what happened when 7 people ran the algorithm audit. 5 completed the full 7-day process. 2 engaged at the start but didn't finish. The 5 who completed it saw what was actually on their feeds, not what they thought was there. What was actually there. The political noise from home countries, The outrage cycles, the passive consumption that felt like staying informed but was actually just emotional activation without agency. Some snoozed and muted. Some deleted their YouTube history and watched the algorithm lose its grip. The ones who followed the full protocol won back measurable hours. Real hours in a real week that went to professional focus instead of reactive scrolling. But the most significant finding was not in the numbers. It was in the awareness. Even the two who didn't finish reported something unexpected, a sharp increase in mindfulness about what they were consuming. They started noticing the pull, noticing when the scroll was reactive rather than intentional, noticing what their mutton curry was, and being able to name it for the first time. Naming something is the beginning of changing it. Here is the most important thing I have learned through all of this. The audit alone is not enough. Most people who do a digital detox drift back within weeks. They clear the space. They feel the relief. And then, without knowing what to put in its place, they fill the silence with the next noise. The next side hustle that becomes a distraction. The next feed that feels different but operates the same way. The audit clears the noise. But you have to know what belongs in the silence before the silence becomes useful. That is what Clarity Designed is about. Not just a tea, not just a detox protocol, a process of reflecting, connecting, building, that gives the cleared space somewhere honest to go. The drill was that process, documented in real time. My grandfather sat in the front yard with a newspaper. My grandmother served tea to whoever came. Everyone contributed. That was how I was formed. It started simply casual daily conversation, a ritual. Neighbours arriving with the morning. Ideas exchanged over tea. Nothing structured. Nothing planned. Just people gathering around something that mattered. But it didn't stay that way. The front yard conversations evolved into think tank work, research, policy debate, the serious business of trying to understand how the world worked. Then into digital platforms, then into workshops, then into a decade of working across cultures, disciplines and contexts, Nepal, London, the diaspora in between. What I am offering now is not the front yard itself. It is what the front yard produced. The pattern recognition that comes from a lifetime of gathering around ideas. The methodology that emerged from living the problem before naming it. The clarity that only comes after enough confusion has been honestly examined. The front yard was the beginning. This is what it grew into. So here is the invitation. Not as a pitch, as an extension of that original gathering. Look at your feed. Not quickly, properly. Notice what is actually there. What emotion does it produce? What does it cost you in attention and energy? What is your mutton curry? And then ask yourself the more important question. If you cleared this space, what would you actually put in it? What is the one thing you have been meaning to build that keeps getting pushed to the margins of the day? When you have an answer to that second question, bring it to the front yard. Drop it in the comments. The observation you think is obvious might be exactly what someone else needed to hear. And if you want to go further, if you want to take the audit seriously as a structured process, the link below is the door. 3 questions. What you find there will shape what gets built next. I want to close with something I have not said directly in this series until now. None of this was possible without my wife. I do not mean that as a polite acknowledgement. I mean it as a structural fact. How you are prepared in your house is how you perform outside. You are first your inner self, then your home, then the world. And the home only works as a foundation when the person you share it with understands what you are building and chooses daily to hold the space that makes the building possible. She holds the house while I hold the vision. She makes it possible for me to wake at 3:30 a.m. and finish an episode while the baby sleeps. She carries the weight that does not show up in any of these episodes, and that weight is not small. I am raising a daughter with her in West London. I want that daughter to grow up knowing what it looks like when a person builds something that is genuinely theirs. Not borrowed, not reactive, not shaped by noise. Built from clarity, built from the inside out. That is the inheritance I am trying to leave. Not a product, not a company, a way of moving through the world. The work continues. I do not know exactly what the next chapter looks like yet. That is the honest answer. But I know what it is for. And I know what I have learned. about myself, about the people I have spoken with, about what happens when you clear the noise and finally hear what was always underneath it. The construction site is open, the building is real, the drill is still going. I will update you as it develops. Thank you for being at the construction site. I'm Saurav, this is The Drill.